All right, so have you heard about this Manus thing? It's like it's getting a lot of buzz right now, and people are saying it's the first like general AI agent in the world.
I have, yeah. It's exciting stuff, right?
Yeah. What they mean is it's supposed to be able to do, well, pretty much any task you throw at it, not just one specific thing.
Right, exactly. Like not just writing poems or summarizing text, but tackling complex problems, really getting into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. And get this, over 2 million people are already on the wait list to try.
2 million!
Yeah, crazy, right. But here's the thing, very few people have actually gotten to use it so far. Something like less than 1% of those on the wait list.
Wow, it's like trying to get tickets to a sold-out concert or something.
Yeah, totally. So we found this Tom's Guide article, and in it, a tech writer, they actually got to compare Manus head to head with ChatGPT. You know, the one everyone knows.
Oh, cool.
Uh,
I'm wanting to see how those two stack up.
yeah, me too. So they gave him like 5 different challenges to see how they perform. And that's what we're diving into today.
Awesome. I'm ready to dive in.
All right, let's do it. So challenge number 1, they asked the AIs to analyze the economic impact of implementing a universal basic income in like a developed country.
Okay, so like a big picture societal level question. How'd they handle that?
Well, ChatGPT, it gave a pretty balanced overview, I thought. You know, like it touched on the main arguments for and against UBI, even brought up some real world examples to illustrate the points.
Sounds like a pretty solid response. Did it get into any of the specifics, like how it might be implemented, potential funding sources, that kind of thing?
I think so. It definitely, laid out the basic framework. But then, Menus, it really went deep.
Deeb, how so?
Well, it got into like not just the mainstream economic arguments, but also some of the more unorthodox theories out there.
Oh, wow. So it really explored a wide range of perspectives.
Yeah, but it made the response like super dense and complicated. Not exactly something you could skim through.
I can imagine. So a trade-off there, depth versus accessibility, maybe?
Yeah, and it also took like forever to generate.
Oh, really? Like how long are we talking?
Almost an hour. Well, ChatGPT was much faster, like way faster.
So maybe in that case, it depends what you're looking for. If you need a quick overview, ChatGPT might be the way to go.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to get a deep understanding of all the nuances, maybe Manus is worth the wait.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So round 1 goes to ChatGPT for speed and like ease of understanding, but Manus gets some points for, being super thorough.
Definitely. What was the next challenge?
Okay, so the next one was all about creativity. They asked the AIs to write a poem that captured the essence of autumn in a city.
Interesting. Always curious to see how AIs tackle the more artistic prompts.
Me too. It seems like such a human thing to like express emotions and create art.
Totally. So what'd they come up with? What was ChatGPT's poem like?
Oh, it was good. It had like a nice rhythm to it. And it used like vivid imagery of nature and the city blending together.
Okay, I like that. Give me some specifics. What kind of imagery?
Let me see. It talked about golden leaves swirling down busy streets and the smell of rain mixing with like car exhaust, that sort of thing.
I can almost smell it. Very evocative.
Yeah.
What about Manus? What approach did it take?
So Manus went with a longer like free verse style, so no real rhyme scheme or rhythm,
Mhm.
but it used way more like sensory details and metaphors. It was really something.
Wow, so even more immersive than ChatGPT's.
Yeah, way more. Like you could almost feel the crisp autumn air and hear the leaves crunching under your feet.
Amazing. Did any particular lines or images jump out at you?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's one line I loved. The wind whispers tales of fallen leaves rustling through concrete canyons.
That's beautiful. It really captures that feeling of nature kind of poking through the urban landscape.
Right. So what do you think? Does Manus win this round?
I think so, yeah. Both poems were well crafted, but Manus has really offered like a richer, deeper experience.
Okay, let's move on to the Tech Explainer Challenge. They asked the AIs to explain blockchain technology to someone who, like, isn't a coder or anything.
Ah, blockchain. It's one of those things that's super fascinating, but can be really hard to wrap your head around if you're not, deep in the tech world.
Exactly. So how did they do? Did they make it understandable?
Well, ChatGPT gave a very clear and concise explanation. Like cover the basics of how blockchain works, use really straightforward language.
Okay, so it passed the test. Like someone with no tech background could understand it.
Yeah, for the most part, I'd say so. But it did skim over some of the, like, nuances,
Yeah.
especially when it came to how transactions actually work and some of the potential downsides of blockchain. It was more of a high-level overview.
Got it. Okay, so good, but maybe not perfect. What about Manus? Did it, go full Manus on us?
Of course it did. It gave this really thorough breakdown, covering not just the technical stuff, but also the history of blockchain, real-world applications, and it even used some really engaging metaphors to help explain the concepts.
Okay, so classic Manus, going above and beyond. But I wonder, was it maybe a bit too much information for someone who's just trying to get a basic understanding?
That's a good point. It brings up an interesting question, right? How do you balance accuracy and comprehensiveness with making these complex topics truly accessible to a wider audience?
Yeah, that's tough. Like, you want to give people enough information to actually understand the concept, but you don't want to overload them with, jargon and super technical details.
Exactly. And I think this is something that, AI developers are still grappling with. How do you create an AI that can explain really complex things in a way that's both accurate and engaging? And that, doesn't leave people feeling like they just sat through a college lecture.
Right. Well, I'm glad I didn't have to be the one explaining blockchain. I think I'd rather leave that to the AIs. So, what was next on the AI challenge list?
So the next challenge was kind of a heavy one. They asked the AIs to talk about the ethical implications of using AI in surveillance.
Ooh, yeah. That's a big one. Especially these days with all the, talk about privacy and all that. So, how did they handle it? What did ChatGPT have to say?
Well, ChatGPT, as usual, it gave a pretty well-organized response. Like, it hit all the main points: potential for bias, privacy violations, the need for transparency and accountability.
Okay, so it acknowledged like the main concerns.
Yeah.
Did it offer any solutions, like how to mitigate those risks?
It did. It
Mm.
even gave some real-world examples of, how AI surveillance is being used ethically and responsibly, like projects that focus on privacy and make sure humans are involved in the decision-making.
Okay, so at least it's aware of, the ethical gray areas. What about Manus? Did it, go deep on the ethics like it did with the economics thing?
Oh, yeah, big time. Madness, true to form. It gave this super comprehensive, nuanced analysis. Like,
Yeah.
it went into all these different ethical perspectives.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Sure, it brought up philosophical arguments, legal frameworks, even historical examples of surveillance and how it's impacted society.
Wow, that's a lot. I'm noticing a pattern here, Manus. Whenever there's a chance to, really dive deep, it takes it. But I wonder, is there a point where too much information just becomes overwhelming? Especially with something like ethics, where there are so many, different viewpoints and arguments.
Right, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to step back and figure out what's really important and what it all means for you. And that's where I think, human judgment is key. We got to be able to filter through all that information, find the key takeaways, and make our own decisions based on what we believe in, right? Even with an AI as smart as Manus, it's ultimately up to us to figure out how to use this stuff responsibly.
So it sounds like both AIs had something good to say about, the ethics of AI surveillance. ChatGPT gave like a clear overview, and Manus took us on a deep dive.
Exactly. And both approaches have their place. It depends what you're looking for and, how much time you have.
Speaking of time, let's move on to the last challenge, which was a little different. This time, they gave the AIs a math problem. Two cyclists traveling towards each other at different speeds. The prompt even had like a diagram to visualize the scenario. It said, let me see
Three
this.
cyclists start at the same time from opposite ends of a 100-mile road. Cyclist A travels at a constant speed of 15 miles per hour, while cyclist B travels at a constant speed of 20 miles per hour. How long will it take for the two cyclists to meet?
Yeah, that's it. So not exactly rocket science, but still, a good test to see how they solve problems. How'd they do?
Well, good news. Both ChatGPT and Manus got the answer right. But they went about it a little differently. ChatGPT gave a nice, clear explanation of the steps, formulas, calculations, all that. Very straightforward, easy to follow.
So nice and simple. And Manus, did it give us the usual, super detailed breakdown?
Manus, being Manus, it did give us a more, shall we say, elaborate response. Not only did it get the right answer, but it also double-checked its own work and
Yeah.
showed all the calculations in this super organized way.
Wait, it double checked its work. That's actually pretty cool. Like it wanted to make sure it didn't mess up.
Right, like it was modeling good problem-solving habits.
Yeah.
Even for something as, basic as a math problem. It's a good reminder for all of us, even when we're using AI, we should think critically and double check, make sure things make sense.
I wish I had Manus around when I was doing math homework. All those times I messed up because I forgot to carry them on.
We've all been there. But I think this last challenge really shows something important. Even in a task that seems totally objective, like math, there are different ways to go about it. And there's value in, taking that extra step, being careful, making sure you're accurate.
So I guess Manus wins this round. Not just for getting the right answer, but for demonstrating good problem-solving skills.
I'd say so, yeah. It's not just about being right. It's about being thorough and careful, too.
Okay, so we've seen how Manos and ChatGPT tackled these 5 challenges. And according to the Tom's Guy article, Manos technically won overall. Like, it consistently gave the most thorough, detailed answers.
Yeah, that's right. But it's important to remember, it also consistently took a lot longer. Sometimes like twice as long as ChatGPT.
Hmm.
And all that detail, while impressive, could also be a bit overwhelming at times.
It's like, do you want a quick snack or a 5-course meal, right? Sometimes you just need a quick bite of info, and other times you're ready to really savor a more elaborate spread. It just depends what you're looking for.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway here. There's no one right answer when it comes to AI. Both Manus and ChatGPT have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
It's all about finding the right tool for the job and understanding, what the trade-offs are.
It feels like we're, on the edge of something huge with AI. It's changing so
Yeah,
fast.
it really does. Yeah. The pace of innovation is incredible. And as these systems get more sophisticated and, more integrated into our lives, it brings up some pretty important questions.
Okay, like what? What are the big questions we're facing as AI keeps evolving?
Well, one of the big ones is, how do we make sure that AI is used responsibly, ethically? We talked about some of the concerns with AI surveillance, but there's like bigger implications too.
Like what? Can you give me some specific examples?
Sure. Think about the potential for AI to, make existing inequalities even worse, or to be used in ways that discriminate against certain groups, or the impact on jobs. As automation increases, how do we make sure everyone has the opportunity to, thrive in this new world? These are
Yeah.
just a few of the things we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, those are some big questions for sure. It's a lot to think about, but I guess that's, why we're doing this deep dive, right? To explore these issues and try to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And the more we understand about AI, what it can do, how it might impact us, the better prepared we'll be to deal with it all.
It's exciting and a little scary at the same time, isn't it? Like we're standing at the edge of, the unknown, not sure what's out there.
That's a great way to put it. There's definitely a sense of, wonder and possibility, but also a need to be careful to think things through.
So, after all this talk about Manus and ChatGPT, what's the big takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they go out into the world and, encounter AI in their daily lives?
I think the most important thing to remember is that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to decide how we use it and to shape its development in a way that benefits humanity.
That makes sense. It's not about being afraid of AI or, rejecting it completely. It's about being informed, being engaged, and thinking critically about its role in our lives.
Exactly. And that's where I think shows like this one come in. We're here to help you explore these topics, to offer different perspectives, and to encourage you to think for yourselves.
So as AI keeps evolving, we'll be here diving deep into all the, most interesting and thought-provoking stuff. We'll be your guides, your companions on this, this journey of discovery.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about the technology. It's about how we, as humans, adapt and evolve and, shape the future we want to create.
Well said. I'm feeling inspired, and I hope our listeners are too. This has been a great deep dive, and I'm excited to see what we explore next time.
Me too.